me ask you a question. Have you ever had a job where you didn't earn as much as other people? Where even new people that come in earn more than you, even though you have more experience, you've been with the company for longer, perhaps you even have more qualifications than other people, but yet you didn't seem to get a pay rise. You didn't seem to get compensated the way you should have been. Has that ever happened to you? Right. And what kind of emotions did that bring up for you? I can tell you what it brought up for me. It's really heartbreaking. It's so frustrating and so irritating, and it feels so unfair, and I felt used and sad and all these kind of emotions. It's so difficult and yet so familiar, right? Because all throughout childhood we had the similar feelings. We felt like we weren't seen, we weren't heard, we weren't understood, we weren't appreciated and valued, and all those things. So we're still having the same kind of emotions, and because it feels so familiar, we often put up longer than other people in those situations. Right? You may have had that job for a long time, even knowing you felt used or felt treated unfairly, but it felt so familiar to you that you didn't leave. And that is key. Because other people, when they feel like they are of value and they are contributing and they are asking, they have this groundedness and confidence when they're asking for a pay rise, and they feel like, hey, what I'm bringing to the table is worthy of being paid more. And not from a place of entitlement it comes for those people, or arrogance. It's just that natural, it feels natural to them, right? But it doesn't for us. For so many of us, that there's this doubt about ourselves, the doubt of our ability to cope and to ask for more, and seeing ourselves as being of value and being worthy, right? So I myself had to do a lot of work on this, right? And trying to find ways to feel worthy. And many of my clients are going through the exact same thing. Some have been in the past, some are going through this now. So if this is you, you are not alone. I just really wanted you to know that you're not alone, because it felt to me always that I'm the only one. I'm the only one who's always treated unfair. So I'm the only one who's always being used. And it doesn't happen to anyone else. I didn't see back then that this is actually happening to a lot of people. This is a very common thing for trauma survivors, right? It's because it feels so familiar to us, right? So, but as we are working on our healing, we're finding ways to feel worthy, to feel of value, and this feels uncomfortable. That inner shift, right, is so hard to overcome because it brings up anxiety for us, right? This is unfamiliar. Like I said, it's familiar to feel these ugly feelings that I don't want to have, but changing and feeling of really this is something new, this also feels uncomfortable, right? So there was a lot of resistance for me there at the beginning to do this. So when we start working on this, I just want to give you a few tips. So initially, for me, it was really important to actually have, whether this is a therapist, a coach, some really nurturing, beautiful friends if you have, a partner, the good people in your life, not toxic people, right? The people that you can trust, that can actually tell you what is of value of you, or really showing you appreciation, and really let that touch your heart, right? So at the beginning, we need this external way of feeling appreciated and valued. So it comes from the outside. But what we want to learn as we heal is to let that come from the inside. So no matter what other people think, I am so aligned with my values, and I'm a person of integrity. I'm acting accordingly on those values eventually, right? This wasn't the case at the beginning, but as we practice, we feel more grounded within ourselves, that we can, it's just a natural state of being to feel worthy of being compensated for what I do, right? And this is being natural, like I said, not arrogant or from a place of entitlement. So this is very tricky for us. I mean, all financial things are really complex for most trauma survivors, and a lot of people have issues with the money, not just when you're not compensated right, it's also actually when you're having the money, there's things coming up, whether we're too scared to actually spend money because the anxiety or that fear of being homeless and things like that, if that comes up for you, or when you're going through PTSD crisis, when you start spending impulsively and things like that, right? I went through all this as well. So it's very complex, the money thing, isn't it? But what sometimes can really help, especially when you're going through these more difficult phases, is, it was one question for me. It's always like, how old do I feel right now? Right? Have you ever asked yourself that? In those difficult situations, generally I felt like I was still a child. Sometimes I felt like I'm 6 years old or 8 years old, right? So then I know some past wounds have been triggered. And then that is where I put a little bit of work in and process those kind of phases. So there's ways we can change this, so we can move forward, so this doesn't keep coming up in our life, right? This isn't something that we need to struggle with for the rest of our lives. This is so key. This is so key. Just because we had abuse and trauma in our childhood doesn't mean that our adult life also has to be ruined. You know, my past does not determine my future. What people, abusive, toxic people told me and what they thought about me, the identity that they gave me, I don't have to hang on to this. I can change my identity now. I no longer need to live into what they thought my worthiness is. Living into what they thought that, you know, I'm useless and hopeless and I'm never going to amount to anything. Those kind of messages that you may have received throughout childhood as well. We no longer have to live into this. And so, okay, right here, right now, what is it actually that is of value to me? How could I contribute to the world? What gives me a sense of purpose? Right? So there's a lot of different angles that we need to address, right? There's no quick fix for this. Oh, that wasn't for me. If you have a quick fix, let me know. I'm curious. But to me, it was looking at this from many different perspectives and allowing myself to be open, being willing to feel uncomfortable as I explore this, because it was hugely uncomfortable for me. Right? And for many of my clients too. But having those conversations and bringing some awareness to this, right? So the first step is always bringing awareness to it. Sometimes it's only in retrospect. So afterwards, when you're talking with a therapist or a coach or a friend about it, or sometimes you might, in retrospect, when you're journaling, you might think, oh yes, here it happened. Eventually, you get to a place where you are aware of it in the moment when it happens. And that is beautiful. You might not be able to change anything just yet, and that's totally okay. It's still beautiful. It's amazing. For me, this was like three-thirds of the work. So it was the bulk of my healing work was getting to a place where I become aware in the moment, and eventually then I could be aware in the moment and make a change, respond differently, act differently in the moment when it happens to have a different outcome, right? So I just really wanted to make sure that you know that you are not alone with that. Right? This is so common for our trauma survivors, and if you have any tips for us, then please share them down below as well. I always love connecting with you guys and hearing what you are working on and what you find useful, because we are all so unique, right? So I could give you my exact steps that I did, the exact approaches I did when and for how long and all of this, and it might not work for you the way it did for me, right? Because we're all quite unique. We have different likes, we have different dislikes, and so forth, and that is totally okay. It is about finding our or connecting to our uniqueness and our brilliance, and finding that what are our gifts, what do we bring? We're here for a reason, right? And allowing ourselves to grow into this, you know, knowing, yeah, we had a lot of trauma, and it's kind of shaded this or blinded us to our gifts, right? I didn't know what my gifts were. I was just darkness. I didn't know. I thought I was a waste of space. I didn't see nothing. There was nothing there to grasp on. So if that is you at the moment, please know this is okay. This is a normal trauma response as well. A lot of people feel exactly the same, right? They have nothing to grasp on. Eventually, as you are healing, it's almost like the dim switches where you turn the dial and it becomes lighter and lighter and lighter, and you can actually see more and more of your brilliance. It is there. There's seeds. We all come with the seeds of brilliance. We all have gifts in us. We just haven't been nurturing them to actually grow them and actualize them and make them visible, make them seen, right? Allow ourselves to be seen. Allow ourselves to take up space. Huh? This is so difficult. We often talk about this in our Thriveroo Community, an online group on the Zoom calls, to give ourselves permission to take up space and speak. Share our opinion, our perspectives and things like that, even those kind of things. And this is not just for a support group, right? At work as well. To give yourself the permission to actually speak up and share your opinion. If you have a better idea for something, it doesn't even have to be a better, it just have to be a different idea or a different perspective for something, to allow yourself to share this. Right? Because for the most part, the minute I would have a different idea, my heart would start pounding and then it's almost like my speech center turned off and there was nothing, there was no words. I couldn't actually articulate it. There was just panicky anxiety. From the outside you couldn't see it. I was just frozen with that idea and I couldn't verbalize it. Okay, so if that is you, again, I want to just point out, you're not alone with that. I really want you to get that. You're not alone with that, because that's the first. Or I don't wish it on anyone to go through that, but it somehow it did something for me to know that I am not the only one. There's other people who are going through this. There's other people who find ways out. It gave me some sparks of hope that things could change for me too, and that's the same I hope for you and my wish as well. So, but as always, I am sending you lots and lots of love and rainbows to brighten up the tough times just a little. See you guys. Bye.